South Africa's first doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine arrived on the 16th of February 2021. We're expecting to receive up to 500,000 units from the company. These, however, will be used as part of the implementation study that's currently being carried out among health workers. A further 11 million doses have been secured by the Department of Health. These will form part of the broader national rollout as the government enters different phases of its vaccine strategy. Well, to speak to us about this issue this evening is Bekisisa's Joan van Dijk. Joan, good evening and thank you so much for your time. Now, there's been a lot of confusion amongst people for how the Johnson & Johnson vaccines that are currently being administered would be able to be given to people without first undergoing the testing that we saw the AstraZeneca vaccine being taken through.
So these 500,000 jabs that are being rolled out, they're going to health workers now as part of an implementation study. So South Africa got them for free from Johnson & Johnson because this was extra stock that was left over from the initial trials that they did. So the jabs aren't registered for wider public use. They only have registration for use within a research setting. So that means they can only be used within the confines of the study's protocol, which is like kind of like the handbook for how the study is going to be run. So at the moment, only health workers and certain politicians are allowed to get the jabs. And there are two reasons that we did it this way. The first is it gives us an opportunity to get more data about the J&J vaccine, like how eager are people to take the jab, and maybe some more information about how it responds against the variant here, although we already know that it performs quite well. The second reason is that it's far quicker to get vaccines registered this way through a clinical trial than the normal process. SAHPRA can register clinical trial for COVID specifically within a month, but the normal registration process can take up to 2 years otherwise.
So let's talk then about what happens once the 11 million doses that are meant for the rest of the population come into our shores. We were told that SAHPRA is getting ready to expedite their registration processes. Does that mean that these vaccines are still going to be held up for a couple of months while the paperwork is done?
No. So at the moment, SAHPRA is reviewing both Pfizer and J&J for emergency use. And so in South Africa, we don't have our own emergency use tool, but we use a similar thing called a Section 21 authorization. And that's a tool that allows you to import medicines that haven't yet been registered for use in the country. And it can only be done if there's enough data on safety, so they don't compromise on that. And Section 21 is used when there are no other options available or when the other options have failed. It can also be given in either patient by patient or in bulk, as it was with the AstraZeneca vaccine. So it doesn't mean that it's registered in full yet, but it means that you can use it in the meantime while the full process is still ongoing.
Joan, the rollout program, even via this implementation study of government, is taking place at quite a slow pace. You know, we only have over 107,000 people that have been inoculated so far. So at this point, it's about waiting to hear when the remainder of that 500,000 in terms of vaccines is going to arrive. Seeing what we do now, realistically, what are the kind of expectations that South Africans should have about when we're actually likely to get that Johnson & Johnson vaccine?
Yes, well, I think the fact that we've secured them doesn't mean we're going to get them right away. I'm not sure when those jabs will actually be coming into the country. But we know that the 500,000 we will be getting by April. There are some ways that SAHPRA is making sure that they're speeding up the process of approvals, so that by the time that those J&J jabs do get here, that it doesn't take long to approve from that time. So what they could do is they could use a reliance mechanism, which is when they use other regulators like the FDA's recommendation to speed up their process. Another thing they could use is rolling review, and J&J has actually submitted for rolling review, and that means they submit their data after each leg of the trial. So SAHPRA reviews it as it comes in, and it means they don't have to look at everything at once everything, all the data is in. So in the end, the Johnson & Johnson jabs might actually have more than one kind of approval, clinical trial and emergency use and full registration.
All right. Bhekisisa's Joan van Dijk, thank you for that update.